Well, welcome to Beyond 28. This is a special one. I got two legendary coaches. We'll start off with Mike Brown, Warriors associate head coach, and also stopped in a lot of other places with the Lakers and the Cavaliers. Man, welcome to Beyond 28, Mike.
Thank you, Mark.
And also the already coach that's a Warriors legend. I'm gonna make him one already.
Hmm.
Been a pleasure to be around him too. Steve Kerr, welcome to Beyond 28, and it's a pleasure to talk to you both.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it, Mark.
Yeah, I think the first thing I want to do is, and I'll start with Steve, because your background with your late father being a great educator that he was, and maybe you could give some background if you'd like. But how big has education been in your life? I guess from birth.
Yeah, I mean, it's my parents were both educators, and my mom still is actually at 87. She still is teaching.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. She uh, she hosts the Fulbright Scholars at UCLA, and um, she teaches a class, and she's still active and still loves the classroom and being around people and meeting people from all over the world. And so I still have that dynamic in my life through her. And you know, growing up when my dad was a professor at UCLA, yeah, they harped on academics in a big way, and it was just a huge part of our life. Our social life kind of revolved around the faculty members that they were friends with from UCLA. And so I was the black sheep. I just wanted to play basketball. My siblings were the academics, but no, it was a big part of our lives.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you needed some grades to get in Arizona. Well, maybe not.
Hey, watch out.
Well, I guess for you, Mike, you grew up with a military background. I don't know how much a role that played in your early education, and obviously getting into the University of San Diego. That was playing basketball there, and Steve at the University of Arizona. Well, it wasn't an easy task getting into that school.
Yeah, my mom was also a teacher for a lot of years, and not at the level that Steve's parents were. She was a fourth grade teacher, third grade teacher, but you know, you learn a lot from being around them. You appreciate the fact that they're trying to help young kids grow or the next generation grow, and just watching the different ways that my mom did it was a fantastic experience for me. My dad was in the Air Force. I didn't spend a ton of time around him or what he did for the Air Force. The one thing that I know that he brought home is the discipline aspect, and so that kind of rubbed off on me in a certain way. I feel like at times I'm a disciplined guy, and then at times I'm not. But any discipline that I have, I'd say I got that from my dad.
Yeah. Steve, and this is for both you guys. What did your How do you incorporate what you learned in college into your coaching today? Anything stand out?
Well, I played for Lute Olson at Arizona, and so I got the ultimate example of a coach who built a culture. Um, not just a basketball team, but a culture that makes the foundation of the team so much stronger, which allows you to get through the adversity that you inevitably are going to face every single year. So I didn't realize what I was learning at the time, but Coach Olson came in. We came in the same year, 1983, and Arizona was at the very bottom of the Pac-10 at the time, and one of the worst programs in the country. And he turned it around quickly. We were in the NCAA tournament by his second year, my sophomore year. And then that started a string of 25 straight trips to the NCAA tournament.
Wow.
So being there at the beginning and feeling him build that culture and witnessing that, I learned from all of that. And I've taken a lot of what I learned from Coach Olson to my job with the Warriors, and especially the approach to culture and the importance of building something that is structurally sound and based on relationships and communication and trust, and because that's kind of what makes it fun too. And so all that for me really started with my education in college from Coach Olson.
Yeah, Mike.
Just the biggest thing I'd say that I learned is you kind of have to make do with what you have. You got to turn something that may look sour or excuse me, taste sour or look bad or is not pleasing to the eye. You got to turn that into something positive and get the most out of it. And I say that because I did play Division I basketball. I had a great coach in Hank Egan, and but our facilities and our program wasn't quite on the level that Steve might have experienced at Arizona. we had a stage in our gym, so you might think you're coming to watch a game, or you might think you're coming to watch a play. That was also our practice facility, which and then our
don't chase any balls under the basket, huh?
Exactly. And they didn't even have the padding on the stage. But having said that, Coach Egan he had a way about him that made you appreciate everything and anything that you had, and looking back on it now, I'm like, man, that was terrible. But when we were actually there playing, you didn't realize that you were playing a game and you had a stage right there, and just one side of bleachers and all that. And you didn't realize that that's your practice facility. You didn't realize that, the two pair of Avias that you got for the whole year were less than what a lot of other programs got. Wow. You just were appreciative of it, and he made you feel bigger than what we probably were at the time, and it was enjoyable because of him. And so, more than anything else, he taught us to appreciate everything that comes your way and try to make the most of it as best you can. And so, I try to incorporate that in my life now, and whenever I hit hard times or times that I think can be tough for myself or the group that I'm with, I feel like that there wasn't anything tougher than that or some other experiences that I went through, so we'll be all right at the end of the day.
Mike, look, I had LA gear, Mike. Steve never had those in college. Steve always had Nike. For the day he walked into Tucson, they had Nike there. We had a Via and LA gear.
Via, man.
Yeah, it had to be. But hey,
I think you had it better. LA gear is worse than the Via, though.
But I look
He's
at
from LA and he wouldn't even wear LA gear.
I look at it this way also. I feel like I was one of the, how Steve laid the foundation down in Arizona for guys like Andre Iguodala and Stoudemire and all the other great players that played at Arizona after him. I felt like I did the same for Steve's son. I moved us from the stage to the Jenny Craig Pavilion, which is where Steve's son played at USD. So I feel like I was there in the beginning and started the tradition for the younger guys that came to USD after me.
Yeah, man.
Just in a smaller way.
And he wore Nikes when he got to USD too. So.
Hey, see, but if you were all that, then it wouldn't have been named after Jenny Craig. It would have been named after you, right? So, Steve, you've been quite vocal about the importance of schools teaching the African American experience. That much of your education was around that subject. That much of your education is around the subject that has been whitewashed. Much of this episode and Beyond 28 deals with the issues of education, especially on the need for Black history to be taught so all Americans understand the legacy of racism in this country. Right now, those lessons are under assault from figures on the right who believe that the so-called critical race theory is dangerous, and that by teaching kids the truth about their past, we are somehow harming them. What are your thoughts about around teaching these crucial lessons in the Black experience and the whole critical race theory debate?
Where do we begin on this one, Mark? Um, this is a classic case of modern society, political division slash sensationalized media slash misinformation. This is really not that complicated, but um, you know, the whole concept is, let's teach our children the truth about the African American experience, right? So when I was growing up and I learned my American history, I learned some things about the African American experience, but there were a lot of things omitted that were really crucial to understanding race in our country's history, especially the things that were particularly horrific. And so what's happened now is, there's a desire from people like me for my children and other children to understand what African Americans have gone through um, throughout our history. But politically and sensationally, there are figures who are screaming and yelling, we don't want to tell our children that they are racist. Now, how it got from educating them to telling them that they are racist, I literally have had friends of mine who lean, in that direction politically say, it's a valid point. Like, I don't think a kindergartner should be told he's racist. But this is the problem with American society and today is that everything is politicized, sensationalized. Nobody is asking an educator to walk into a kindergarten and tell a bunch of 5-year-olds that they're racist.
Yeah,
What we're saying is we should educate our children, and we can make the decision at what age we start teaching them different things, but nobody is advocating teaching kids that they are bad inherently. What I am advocating, what a lot of people are advocating, is let's just learn the truth, because the truth really has so much to do with the issues of today. In many cases, white Americans are very ashamed of our history, and it's very difficult sometimes to look at uh, at that shame. And so, rather than look at the truth, we would rather just sort of bypass it and say, "Well, that happened a long time ago, and I didn't have anything to do with it," and we can all just move on. But the only way we can address real issues of racism is to truly understand the truth of what's happened in our past, and that's what critical race theory is about. It's just about teaching a young generation of people um, about our history and about what we can do to eliminate um, the mistakes that we've made in the past.
yeah. Mike, last year for the National Teacher Appreciation Month, you broke the news to a group of teachers that the Warriors were donating 125,000 for new technology. What did that day mean to you? What was it like breaking that news? And what do you think about the teachers who were impacted by that money?
It was a fantastic day for me because you know my mom taught for years, my whole life, and she it's a thankless job in a way, especially uh, the younger ages. It's a lot of people don't, in my opinion, give the respect to teachers that they deserve, and I think it's one of the most important jobs out there. They're raising our youth, they're raising the next generation to keep uh, you know the society going forward in a positive direction, and so to give them something to help better their environment, for me was real gratifying because again, not only in my opinion do not enough people really respect the position like it should be respected, but also even sometimes employers they don't, and they don't provide them with the necessary funding to be able to do their jobs as best they can. And so, yeah, you might at times think that not providing funds uh, is something that will help in other areas, but at the end of the day, when funds aren't provided to teachers and the environment that they're in, it shortchanges the next generation, and it really diminishes their capabilities of trying to provide the best learning environments for our youth. And so, to be able to you know give that group of teachers, although it wasn't my money, you know,
Mhm.
a chunk of change like that can impact their ability to teach in the lives of the kids that they're teaching. Is very for me personally. It was very gratifying because, you know, I knew what my mom went through and some of her peers went through the years coaching, not coaching, teaching elementary school.
Mhm. Steve, I did want to ask you real quick, and we've talked about this before, and I know you're not looking for kudos on this, but I've always respected that you and Pop and Stan Van Gundy, obviously Stan's not coach anymore, that you guys have always been allies for people of color, for black people, and spoken out when it hasn't been easy to speak out. And I do think that, you know, white voices in this struggle of racism matter strongly. What has given you that strength to speak out? And has anybody told you, like, Steve, why don't you just shut up? Why are you doing like what? Well, you don't have to. Like, we want to see what you thought on that.
Hey, Mark, I've told Steve to be quiet because, you know, I'm not worried about Steve walking in the hood in East Oakland. He's gonna be okay. I'm worried about him walking in an all white neighborhood. He might get jumped.
Hey, look, all Steve got to do is put out a tweet, and all of East Oakland will be covered to fight for him.
Yeah, yeah,
They'll cover East Oakland, West Oakland, East
he could go
Palo
to East
East San
Oakland.
Jose. Steve, Steve got love in the Bay now. Don't mess with
That's
Steve
right.
Kerr.
That's
That
right.
There'll be a cavalry coming to help him. But go ahead,
Uh,
Steve.
no, I first of all, I appreciate the compliment. Secondly, one of the reasons I love the Bay is that people generally agree with me on on this stuff,
Yeah,
whether they're from East Oakland or San Francisco. I mean, that I feel like I share a lot of the sensibilities and views on race and uh, compassion and empathy for each other that people in the Bay Area do. This region really suits me and my personality and my values, and so it's really a lot easier to coach and to be able to speak out on issues that maybe would be getting me in trouble in Texas or Florida, for example.
yeah,
When I mean, literally, I go to when I go to the grocery store, I'm telling you, I get white people who come up to me every day and say thank you for speaking out and thank you for saying the things you do, and it's really empowering for me. But for Greg Popovich, I've talked to him about this quite a bit. He gets a different reaction in the supermarket, you know
yeah.
and but he has been probably my biggest mentor. I definitely learned from my parents that the value of diversity and the importance of reaching out to people from different backgrounds, and so it's something that's in my blood anyway. But Coach Popovich is the one who gave me the courage to speak out publicly because I watched him do it, and it meant a lot to me when he did it, and I um, decided to use my voice as well.
Well, I try not to speak for black people, but for black folks and people of color, man, thank you sincerely
Appreciate that.
for
Thank
everything
you.
you say and
Thank
do.
you.
Um, Couple more questions, and I'll let you guys go. And Steve, in 2012, you wrote a piece for Grantland arguing that the minimum age to the NBA should be raised to 20. Um, do you feel that player development benefits from better and more expansive education?
Well, I would, first of all, that was 9 years ago. So I would say I no longer agree with myself from 9 years ago, but some of that is because of the development of the G League in the NBA. I do believe that there should be an alternative for players who don't want to go to college, and the G League is and the NBA is really trying to provide for that. Having said that, there's no doubt in my mind, just from my own basketball career, my colleagues from when I played to now my view as a coach and seeing players come through our program. There's no doubt in my mind that the players who go to college for at least a couple of years are so much better prepared for life, not only on the court but off the court. And so I would still encourage um, every player to get some college experience because there's so much to learn. It's not just what you learn in the classroom or the basketball experience you gain on the court, but just life experience. You're 18, 19 years old. There's so much to learn. You got to be able to make mistakes and survive those mistakes. These days, it seems like you can't make a mistake in public, or you sort of get vilified and labeled by an unforgiving media and fan base. It's a difficult world that these young guys are entering in the NBA. So I think a college experience is really valuable.
Yeah. Mike, what are your thoughts?
I've always been a proponent of hey, if you want to turn pro after high school, turn pro. There's one sport, American football. I think you need some time before you before you play in the pros, just because it's a physical development aspect that comes into play when you're playing professionally in that particular sport. But I always felt it was unfair to tell a basketball player, he's got to go to college for a year or two or three or whatever, but a tennis player or a hockey player or a baseball player can turn pro right away. And I agree with Steve. I think that having the NBA in the G League system step up and help better prepare these guys that may not have an opportunity to be able to play in the NBA at all or even right away. That's extremely helpful. But this is a free market, and if somebody wants to take a swing at it, take a swing at it. Having said all that, I do think that being in an environment where there is help with player development, not just on court player development, but somebody there to kind of give you some guidance away from the court is extremely helpful. And almost every organization, if not all organizations, including most, if not all, the G League organizations, they have people in place to help these young men along the way. Because the best teacher, in my opinion, is the best teacher out there is going through the experience. And if you can go through the experience with a little bit of guidance, in essence, that's what you have in college. You're kind of on your own, but really not. You have some guidance there to help you get through some tough times. If you can have that help or that person or something of that nature to be there for you as you're going through your ups and your downs through life as a young adult, then for sure it makes you better prepared for when you're completely on your own and you start your family. So yeah, I don't think there should be any age at all. Um, and I do think that the player development aspect is an important piece of any young adult's growth or development.
Last question. I'm gonna go with Mike first. And I know you guys love your kids all the same. When you talk to your children from elementary school through them going to college, what did you impose on them in terms of school, and maybe what were you probably a little lenient and more understanding on? what words of wisdom, and where did you draw the line in terms of your own children and education?
Well, for me, it, I got it from my mom. There was no question my kids had to finish college, at some point, and so um, that was the norm for us. But in terms of them and their education process, the one thing I always told my always encourage my kids is you have a voice, and use it. And even if you're a teenager, if you don't, it doesn't mean that the teacher is always right. And if you disagree with something, then speak up. And there's a way to do it. And um, my oldest one kind of took that to heart. If he doesn't feel if he doesn't feel that he likes something that's being said or that's going on, uh, he'll speak up. And he's gonna he's gonna handle any situation as he feels best. And so, and my youngest one is more of an introvert, but for me, I think that's extremely important that everybody, every student has a voice and they utilize it the right way. Um, I don't know how well that has helped me as a father, because he doesn't always listen to me now, and I wish he would. but it's definitely uh, helped him become opinionated and be really strong in a lot of different areas that, in my opinion, has helped him along his journey of education.
Steve?
Well, my wife and I, we the main lesson we taught our kids really was fight your own battles. You know, that you got to handle your own business. And if you have a problem with a teacher, a coach, don't come running to us. You know, don't say I need mommy and daddy to come talk to the coach to get me more playing time, or to come talk to the teacher to, you know, reconsider a grade they got. We just felt like it was really important to give our kids a lot of freedom, but with that freedom came the responsibility of fighting their own battles, and that was the main message we tried to get across. We just expected them to do well in school because that's the tone we set. We made sure they were, going to class and doing their homework, but otherwise we left them alone and just let them know this is up to you. And the good thing is, I think they understood what that meant. You know, they got themselves in a little bit of trouble, but the good kind of trouble. Not too bad, but just good enough where you're learning and you're growing and you're having some fun. And but there was always the expectation that you got to handle your own business.
Yeah. Well, the Warriors are blessed to have two great teachers in you both, man. Thank you for your
Thank
time,
you.
and
Thank you, Mark.
need to get you guys on Beyond 28 again soon. There's a lot I could talk. I could talk to you guys all day.
Appreciate it, Mark.
All right.
Take care.
Always a pleasure.